आधी शक्यता नहीं जाता है, वो आधी शक्यता नहीं जाता है, आपको लगता है
So आपको तो वैसे वैल्यू पता है। हाँ ठीक है। फोन मॉड्यूल एनवायरमेंट चिप्स क्या है? मॉड्यूल चिप्स क्या होते हैं? दोनों मिला के देना बराबर प्राइस। इनमें सब्सक्रिप्शन यानी मतलब क्या है?
अच्छा चलो ठीक।
That presentation is circulated on
Good evening. Thank you very much. Okay, welcome to the Enterprise Security Summit from PC Quest and CIOL. And I thank you all for taking out time and being here. We have a number of interesting sessions on security, a very important subject today. Given the number of security threats that are happening, and more so all the new IT buzzwords that we keep hearing about, BYOD or social media or mobility and so on and so forth. All of these, they sound good and everybody tries to deal with them and figure out how to use them in the organization. While that is happening, they're also increasing a lot of risk for the organizations. A lot of security threats keep happening, a lot of security risks keep happening because of that. So it opens up suddenly a lot more channels of vulnerabilities for organizations. And that's exactly where the problem is, that while it's good to deploy a lot of new technologies, one cannot afford to ignore all the security threats that arise from them. And why is that so? The next 15 minutes or so I'm going to spend talking about that, and then we have a number of interesting sessions from our partners. Okay, we have IBM, RSA, Quick Heal, CyberRoam, MTech, all going to talk about various aspects of security, followed by a panel discussion in which we'll talk about, identify some of the challenges that they face and how they're actually framing their information security policies in their organization. So a very, very power-packed session, and it should be an interesting discussion, and I urge all of you also during the discussion to ask questions that are relevant for your organizations as well. So that is the whole thing, and I'm going to start. I'll request all of you to put your phones in silent mode if you haven't done so already. You'll probably have feedback forms in your docket, so after the event is over, please fill it up and give it back to us. I'm going to take a very practical view to information security, and this comes from a lot of things that I have been being in the media. You get to see and hear a lot of things that are happening which others don't get to. So I get to see a lot of things like that, and I'm going to present some of those views on what is really happening as far as information security is concerned and what all is going on. I don't know if people at the back are able to read this or not, but some recent cybercrime activities that have happened in India. Okay, an NRI Gmail account got hacked, and the fraudster managed to transfer 63 lakhs worth of fixed deposits by just instructing the bank to do so. Okay, on one side it's a hacked Gmail account, not even an official account, and on the other, the fraudster ends up sending an email saying that I've got a sore throat, I can't talk, so you please transfer this amount to my bank account. The bank transfers 40 lakh rupees. Later the fraudster says, listen, I cannot use rupees, please send me pounds. It gets transferred back to the bank. The bank converts it into pounds and sends it back. Okay, along with details of the other fixed deposits and when they're about to expire. The fraudster sends another mail saying, I didn't receive the first amount, send me this amount again. I had to take a loan for my operation, so you send me the amount again. The bank again transferred the same amount again. Okay, that's what happened in one case. In another case, okay, one person gets duped of 19 lakh rupees. And that happens where a fraudster actually deactivates the SIM of the victim just before the weekend is about to start, and manages to get hold of the online login details and other details, does RTGS transfers from the account to his own account, and there's no SMS going because the fraudster has already deactivated the SIM and applied for a fresh SIM. Okay, and the telecom operator accepts that request, deactivates the SIM, and since the operator does not work over the weekend due to holiday, there's nothing that the victim can actually do about it. Power. You need to put a power adapter on this. Okay, so that's the second incident, and 19 lakhs gone. In a third incident, there's a small company who has some funds, and the fraudster goes ahead and changes the KYC details of the person, changes the mobile number, and goes ahead and does the RTGS transfers so that the victim does not get SMS alerts regarding the funds being transferred. And later, the victim comes to know when a simple check worth 4,000 rupees or something gets dishonored because there is not sufficient balance in the account. These are some of the live practical things that are actually happening where where people are actually losing a lot of money. Okay, and while these are there, many times this is something where technology, a little bit of technology is probably being used, but in some cases even maybe the SMS gateway may not work at all. That also happens, where somebody withdraws money and you don't get an SMS alert, because there's some technical problem. Even those things also happen. Okay, so real practical view of what's really happening out there, which obviously brings me to the next aspect. according to a survey by Cyber Media Research, that financial sector is perceived as the most vulnerable, okay, and faces the maximum number of threats. Now, obviously, with or without the survey, I wouldn't be surprised because of the live incidents that I just talked about. It's actually happening. Okay, so it's no doubt that, to perceive that they are the most vulnerable. Okay, 33% of the respondents in this actually felt that. While others in the list are, of course, information and entertainment, industrial market, real estate and infrastructure, telecom, consumer markets, and others, which include healthcare and social sector. All of them are vulnerable to security threats. Some more findings from some other research agencies, that a lot of CIOs also feel that it's important to actually focus on some of the internal threats that are actually happening, where a lot of it happens because of lack of employee awareness about what to do, how to react to certain incidents. And I wouldn't be surprised, look at some of the examples I gave you. Transferring money based on instructions from a Gmail account. That is lack of awareness, one of the reasons. What else would you call it, right? And then, of course, it is because of the open vulnerabilities. Now that's the technical side of things, right? Probably vulnerabilities that have not been patched. So some basic things have to be taken care of. Vulnerabilities have to be patched, okay? And this is, of course, from Ernst & Young. A CIO survey was done recently for 2014. And therefore, fixing known system vulnerabilities is a given. You can't avoid it. You cannot absolutely afford to ignore patching up vulnerabilities. Security becomes a challenge to adopting enterprise mobility. Okay? Because look at the amount of data that is going out of the office on an employee's smartphone or mobile devices. Now that can cause a lot of potential risk. Okay? So that is again a key thing that has to be taken care of if enterprise mobility is to be implemented in an office. Another survey from Cyber Media Research for 2014 on the investment plans of CIOs goals. At an overall level, security is amongst the top external IT spendings for CIOs, and it is actually above virtualization and ERP. Gentlemen over there, please come on this side in the front. So that is where the spending is happening. Security spending is higher priority than some of the other things like virtualization and ERP. Okay. Another survey, Global State of Information Security Threat. Number of detected security incidents went up by 25% as compared to last year. Now that doesn't just mean that the number of threats has gone up, it also means that the technology usage for detecting threats has also increased. People are using more technologies to detect more security threats. And the average financial cost of incidents has also gone up by 18%. I wouldn't be surprised. Look at it's all correlating with some of the things I just talked about. The number of security incidents that are all happening. Okay. So of course the question is, what are some of the learnings from this? One, of course, is nobody is safe. Whether it's an SME, whether it's a large enterprise, whether it's an individual professor from a university, nobody is safe. Anybody can be targeted. You just have to have the money and the personal information that is of relevance to the fraudster to be able to come to you and take it away. So that's one key learning from this. The other is that organizations are paying up huge money because of this. Because obviously somebody will file a lawsuit if something like this goes wrong, and possibly win also. And if they win, then the company ends up paying a lot of money because of losing that. And of course credibility is associated with it, which also becomes a huge issue, reputation loss, thanks to all these incidents. Therefore, I would say that there's a lot of talk, and I wouldn't be surprised that it has to be made, security has to be made a boardroom agenda. One has to be able to convince the management that yes, security is important and give the relevant reasons. It has business implications. There are losses that are happening. The global cybercrime is becoming more and more organized and vicious. Cannot afford to lose that. Look at the profile of the employees in the company. It's changing drastically. They're becoming more mobile. They know more technology. unfortunately the awareness of some of the things that can happen by using the technology are not there. That is where that causes a lot of problems. Okay? And of course, you're working more closely with a lot of partners outside, so that also becomes a challenge. There can be a lot of security risk associated with that as well. New technologies are emerging for cyber fraud, a lot more. And I think you must be reading about all of those based on various security threat reports from a lot of vendors. So a lot of new techniques are coming out. I think, I'm sure you all would have heard of the Heartbleed vulnerability, right? Pretty strong vulnerability there. Recent retail chain in the US got hacked and some huge number of credit card records were stolen by hacking the Wi-Fi network. So a lot of new techniques are coming up and things are actually happening. Okay? Attacks are becoming more complicated and they are going hand in hand with the growing IT complexity and the moving business environment. And probably they're ahead, as they always have been, unfortunately. So how do you actually play the role? What do you do? Okay? So obviously I cannot tell you exactly what all can be done because no forum is big enough to be able to address all of that. But some general things. One of course is that you cannot ignore the basics, which include framing the right policies, making sure that they're updated, give regular training, generate sufficient awareness, revisiting all your policies. Okay? That is a given. You have to generate continuous awareness, you have to give sufficient training so that people are aware of what to do, how to react to various incidents, okay, how to detect a particular security attack and so on and so forth. Likewise, regular things, patches and updates you cannot ignore, passwords you cannot ignore, okay, updating antivirus you cannot ignore. Those are regular things. They cannot be taken for granted at all. You have to keep pace. Your technology adoption and security processes, they have to keep pace with the growing complexity of security threats. Okay, the last one is again, I think has become essential. Given the number and variety of devices that have come, you have to be able to maintain proper inventory of all of them, what's located where, what are they running, okay, what kind of vulnerabilities are they likely to have. Look at the number of vulnerabilities you hear about Android. I'm sure you would have heard of some of those, right? Quite a few vulnerabilities are happening on Android. I don't know if you've heard of this scam where there was an application that came in Japan for Android. And the application, excuse me all the ladies, but they said that this application gives you the camera X-ray capabilities. So when you take shots, you can take X-ray shots. A lot of people downloaded and used it, and what happened was that the Trojan got installed on the phone and started sending itself out to all the contacts of the smartphone. And it showed itself as a gimmick. So the moment the person took the shot with it, there was a gimmick. It says that you've been fooled. And then I will only uninstall if you pay me money. And that got spread like wildfire in Japan. But those are the kind of things that are happening. And you have to keep track of even one more device to keep track of now. So that's essentially what is there, I think, and some of the things that I had to share. And with that, I come to the end of my presentation. I hope you found it useful. I'd like to invite on stage the next speaker, NV Umashankar, who is a security consultant with IBM. And he is going to talk about using security intelligence to stay out of headlines, as you can see from the title. Thanks a lot, and while he is getting wired up, are there any questions? No questions. You understood everything or nothing? You have a question? Okay. Are we ready?
Hi, good evening everyone. Are you guys able to hear me? The last people?
No.
No? Okay. Can you just check? Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Start back.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for setting up the precedents for the rest of the sessions today. Yeah, so IBM security intelligence has been one of the key focus areas for IBM over the last 2 years now, and it's very relevant to what he just spoke about. How do you bring the security, different security tools which you have implemented in an organization onto a single dashboard and bring more visibility? It's not that enterprises today do not have enough security. To an extent, I think everybody has a decent amount of security in place. But the question is, do you have the visibility in time before the, I would say it's too late, right? So my session would be more focusing on how do you bring the context by bringing in information from different applications and database and your other security tools and network devices to ensure that you are at least have the visibility in a, if not in months time, at least probably in an hour's time, right? So feel free to interrupt me wherever you have questions. Okay. So just to put some statistics, IBM X-Force team, which is the research and development organization of IBM, does security research and associated. We also have managed security services from IBM given to our customers. And in 2013, we saw a huge number of attacks across different business verticals, right? Now, this particular report used to be get published every half a year, which is known as the X-Force Threat Report. Now, this particular report is being published every quarter. So you can just go to ibm.com X-Force and download the latest security report, which just got published about 2 days back. This is some of the statistics, and this is some of the statistics of cost per incident. And unfortunately, in security industry, we do not get the luxury of associating cost to a vulnerability. And that only happens once the losses are estimated, which takes sometimes months. And in case of finance industry, probably you get to know much more faster than the other industries. Back in 2011, right? I mean, the reason why I took this, some of the statistics from 2011 is because most of the enterprises started waking up to a holistic view of security than having just a firewall or a unified threat management or an antivirus or a data leakage prevention solution, which used to be most in silos, right? This is now the report, some of the statistics on what happened in 2011, where attacks became more personal, right? It's more targeted, like some of the examples which you already have seen in the previous presentation. If you see on the right hand side, you see the different business verticals, right? Online services, gaming, marketing services, and on the left hand side, you see the different types of attacks. The top 3 attacks still remains to be the SQL injection, spear phishing, advanced persistent threat, malware. This didn't change much, in 2012. If you see, you still see the top 3 attacks more or less of the same category, right? So it's surrounding around SQL injection, spear phishing, malware, and it's much more challenging now in 2013 and leading into 2014 that these attacks are more predominant because of the mobile, mobility, and of course the social, which most of the enterprises are adopting, right? So if you see over the last 3 years, the statistics remain more or less the same, the left side of the attack types, but you see only the impact is on different business verticals based on how well the business is doing. Obviously, those are the most targeted because that's, attack means business to most of the hackers today. It's no more just fun to have and, claim to fame. So what IBM did is to put up a framework in place where we cut across the security across the 4 different, I would say, domains, right? One is the people domain. How do you ensure this? People's identity is protected, people's controls are restricted, and you then constantly monitor and audit activity of people. The second important aspect is application, right? Now you have Web 2.0 applications, you have most of this Android and iOS applications. Recently we heard of iOS vulnerability on Apple devices. So most of the times till the time we used to feel that iOS are the more secure devices. There you go, we also have applications now vulnerable on iOS as well. Then third important piece of the puzzle was the data part, where you have data at rest, data at motion, we have structured data, you have unstructured data, and how do you ensure you bring in more visibility across data which is lying in your network. And finally, infrastructure piece, which is across cloud or private cloud, public cloud, PC, laptop, traditional devices, different kinds of I would say devices which are connecting to the network through various means. Could be through VPN, could be through cloud, could be through inside the office, through branch office. Now, the very important part here is to ensure that you cannot treat security as a silo here, right? Because everything is interlinked. So if you have an employee who has access to a structured data and then he sends that data from his personal laptop through an email, that's a possible insider abuse. Similarly, you have a contractor connecting to your data in motion in your office and sends it out on cloud or uploads it on Google Drive. You still have those critical data breaches for which you need visibility that this situation is occurring on a real time, right? Because if there is an incident, you go back and do forensics. There's a very laborious process of first analyzing individual silo systems. So IBM has put up a framework in place where we have a correlation between these four verticals, right? Whatever happens across these verticals are correlated and then given as a I would say incident, so that you can link back and then trace the forensics of that particular incident. So this is the IBM security framework, which was put up in 2012 across, and we adopted this framework from COVID, which is the most widely adopted. You see most of the other regulatory frameworks are spun out from this particular framework. So we have people, data, applications, infrastructure, and then we put up this intelligent layer, which is the advanced security research from X-Force, which is one of our oldest and the most, I would say, most popular security research organization in the world. Putting across these, we needed a single console which brings in visibility across these domains. So we added the security, intelligence, analytics, and governance, risk, and compliance, so that you can track all this data across all these pillars from a single dashboard. There could be an employee who logs in using his Active Directory, logs into a database using his root access, and then does some changes to the structured data, and then copies that particular data file and sends it through his laptop, right? So you have various pillars involved. You have people involved there, you have a database involved there, and then you have infrastructure, which is your connectivity, either a data card or a office network, or could be a VPN network as well, right? So these are the solutions which fit into this framework across different pillars. So you have people, where we cut across all the solutions related to identity, whether it is identity management, access management, federated identity management, enterprise single sign-on, privileged identity management, which the sole, the crux of this particular solutions is to ensure that the identity of the employee or contractor or a guest is protected and is also restricted wherever required. So then you have the database pillar, where you have everything and anything which you want to monitor on a database. Whatever changes are being done by administrators on a database, and any additions to the structured data which the users do on a database is a part of the database pillar, which is our Guardian solution. In fact, we also do vulnerability assessment on database servers, which means to say if there is a SQL injection attack, what could be impact of that particular attack, or will it really impact your database network? And on a day zero, we can go ahead and block that particular vulnerability on a database. The third important pillar is the application part, and this is where I would say most of the organizations are waking up to the fact that if you build an application, relatively secure, then just writing the code and making sure it runs across the compiler and then upload the application for public access or even for employee access, There are tools today available in the market. Of course, IBM also is one of the leading solutions in the application security industry, where you can do a preemptive assessment of the code before putting it to production. Or if you already have an application in production, you can run an assessment on that particular web portal and find out what are the vulnerabilities which your portal is susceptible to. So these two solutions combined give you the holistic or a complete, I would say, visibility of an application which you're hosting either on cloud for your employees, private cloud, or even for customers on public cloud. And the final piece is the infrastructure piece, where we spoke about, in the previous presentation, we spoke about the day zero, like Heartbleed, right? So most of the, we know that, it was an OpenSSL version 1 vulnerability which was exploited. And you see now there's another release which just came in, that there's one more gaping hole in the OpenSSL version 1, right? How do you keep yourself ahead of these kind of threats, right? So there is a dedicated team in IBM, which is X-Force, which continuously does research on vulnerabilities in applications, devices, operating systems, network devices, routers, switches, name it, right? So we have today about 78,000 devices across which we do vulnerability research, and we document these vulnerabilities, and then we also gather information from other third-party vulnerability research organizations, and then we build protection on the perimeter or on the endpoint for you to deploy the solution without patching the systems. So typically, if there's a vulnerability on your application or a system, it takes some time to go ahead and get the patch updated on your system, right? So there are solutions today available with IBM on the network, wherever, whether it's a perimeter or it's a data center or it's an endpoint, where you preemptively protect that vulnerability without worrying to patch the system on a day zero. Because at the end of the day, the vendor will only publish vulnerability once he has a fix, right? Typically Microsoft or name any OEM. So they only publish vulnerability if they have a fix. But what about the vulnerability which is lying open, which probably the hacker has found out much before the release of the patch? So if you want to cover the day zero gap of vulnerability discovered to the day vulnerability is patched, which is the typical day zero, there are solutions like the intrusion prevention or the next generation intrusion prevention appliances, which go ahead and block that particular attacks on a day zero. And then we also have interesting anti-fraud protection solution from IBM called Trustier. This was an acquisition which IBM did in August, sometime last year, August 15th, rather the Independence Day. This solution caters to two aspects of endpoint fraud, or rather, fraud protection. One is the client side, where if I open up a banking portal and I'm doing a secure transaction, how does the application, the backend, pursue my transaction, right? So today there are banking solutions available where Trustier is integrated as a part of the core banking application, where the solution decides whether this transaction came from a genuine system or an infected browser or a cyber cafe or probably not approved transaction, and preemptively block such fraud, which are happening across not only just banking but across different business verticals. Then we also address the employee part of the endpoint fraud, right? So because most of the times we also, whenever we are done our security research, we found out that most of the threats are also inside. Need not be, I would say the employee is doing it intentionally, but sometimes the employee installs a patch on an IE or a patch on a Firefox, and then that patch turns out to be a malware. And when the employee is doing a transaction for one of the customers for a bank sitting in the office, that transaction could sometimes be a malicious transaction, either could completely I would say shave off the funds which are available with the customer account, or could do incorrect transactions due to the malware infection on the endpoint. So we address both the aspects of the fraud from a financial vertical, which is an interesting solution. And covering these is the security intelligence, which the IBM QRadar piece fits in. Now this is the solution which brings in visibility across different systems. So you have today data lying all across silos, right? So you have a database server, you have an application server, you have an Active Directory, you have a firewall, you have an IPS, But these all systems are not correlating any information and giving you any intelligent feedback, right? If there is an attack happening, you should know how relevant is that attack onto your network. A simple example is, if there is a SQL injection attack which is detected by your firewall or IPS, intrusion prevention appliance, how do I know that that particular attack is relevant to my infrastructure? So using the security intelligence correlation engine, today what we do is we take feeds from different of these devices and then say that there's a SQL injection on the intrusion prevention appliance. I have run a scan on the database server and the database server is vulnerable to SQL injection, and then I find out that this particular attack by correlation could be a potential threat. So trying to bring more relevance to an attack than just saying that there is a SQL injection and SQL injection detected but not blocked. But if I bring the vulnerability information, whether that particular database server is vulnerable to SQL injection, and correlating that information makes the attack more relevant. Any questions on this part? So, more or less every enterprise today has some part of the solutions, right? Either a form of a UTM or a form of an antivirus or a data leakage prevention, etc. But the question is, do you put all these data silos together and look at information by putting in intelligent correlation rules, right? So that's what the security intelligence layer does. So this is just a snapshot of how we do it. You have different systems here across your enterprise network. You have your security devices, could be a firewall, IPS, VPN, name it, antivirus. Then you have your servers running different applications. And then there are other solutions like your application, configuration management, vulnerability management, and identity. We bring in all of this information, correlate the information using the correlation engine, right? And then run your IP reputation and geolocation information on the events which I'm getting from these different devices, and finally throw out something called an offense, or what you call an incident, right? Since I'm running short of time, I would just like to take a quick snapshot of what we do on the vulnerability part, right? Today, using, everybody has some kind of penetration testing tool, right? Or internal vulnerability assessment tool, or probably an external auditor coming and doing a vulnerability assessment. But my question is, if I hand out a report saying that there are 1,000 vulnerabilities on your systems, on your enterprise, how do you prioritize those vulnerabilities? So using the security intelligence of IBM, today on a single dashboard, you can correlate information from different tools and say, these are vulnerabilities which are inactive, no more relevant to my network. These are vulnerabilities which are already patched, because I'm taking inputs from your patch management system and saying that there's a vulnerability, but it's already patched on the system, right? Then similarly, I say, what are the vulnerabilities which are at risk? What are the vulnerabilities which are already exploited? And what are the vulnerabilities which are blocked? I'm talking about bringing information together and then tying that information together and putting a puzzle, or rather assembling that puzzle and saying that this is the relevance on your enterprise security overview. And just to close on a final slide as to how this could address your different concerns. I'm just taking one use case because we spoke about agenda being an insider fraud or identity fraud. So look at one of these use cases where it is detecting that there is a user who was trying to log in and he was successfully, or rather successively, failing authentications, post which the authentication was succeeded. Then the user tried to log into a database server, tried to edit something or copy something, and finally send that particular data through Gmail. Now these are 5-6 different transactions. So using the IBM Security Intelligence solution today, on a single dashboard today, you can say that who was the insider, with what username did the user log in, what data was copied, and where was it sent, on a single dashboard. Now this is what most of the enterprises are looking at, because I have the tools, but where is the visibility? I need to log into firewall to get logs of firewall, and to log into an antivirus server to see what it has blocked. But there's no single dashboard today which can correlate and say that this is what is my overall visibility. And just on a conclusion note, I'm sorry if I'm exceeding my time, but on a single pane of glass today, an enterprise can get a visibility as to what was the attack, how many targets were involved in the attack, and any of them are vulnerable using the vulnerability scanning tools which integrate with our solution. How valuable are the targets? Now this is the only thing which you define in the enterprise. Rest all are populated on a single pane of glass by our own intelligent correlation engine. Who was responsible for this particular attack? Where do I find more details onto that? Was this attack successful? And finally, where all do I find the evidence to document it and probably take the next course of action on that particular incident? Now this unmatched visibility on a single pane of glass today is what most of the enterprises are looking for, but as I said, the silo-based security systems are slowly getting sidelined because security team today are I would say not trying to be, but are the central force of the entire IT teams across organizations. It's an application team, database team, administration team, security team, network team are coming together and saying that, hey security guys, can you show as an evidence from my applications, from my database and from my network devices. Now this is a single pane of glass which gives you that visibility to say that I've integrated all of your devices now and this is the information I see across various devices. And the correlation makes it so simple that I don't need to just look at one application server logs or one database server logs or one firewall logs. Correlate all of this information and throw up a single offense and say that this is a particular incident you're susceptible to. And this could have as many as millions of events. In this case, there are about 1428 events across various devices, but this correlation can be across millions of events. With that, I would conclude my presentation and open the session for QA if I have enough time. Thank you.
Fortunately, I also have visibility of the time, so
thank you so much.
Maybe we can take it.
Consolidated pane of glass that gives a lot of information. I'm sure that people will find it useful. Our next speaker is from CyberRoam, and he is going to talk about how to harness the disruptive trends securely. And I'd like to invite on stage Hitesh Raul from CyberRoam.
I would just like you to go through a video here. So what do we know following? The workforce is aging. So these are basically the trends. These trends are disruptive. Why we call this trend as disruptive? Because they are changing the business lifestyle. Now we cannot control these trends. We cannot control this change. But yes, we can definitely work over to make these trends working for a business continuity. So that is going to be the agenda of today's presentation, working on the trends and also looking into how we can convert these trends into productivity. So the tipping point of the enterprise network, all of us are facing it, especially with the IT-led infrastructure. Every organization has to balance these top priorities, with the risk is involved, with the cost of a solution is involved, with the upgrade is involved, the downtime is involved, and everything has to be balanced properly. Today's the CXOs are generally have the balance between the business pressure and the disruption in the technological enablement. Now what is this business pressure? This business pressure is something like cost involved, the thinking about the long-term investment, coming up with the BYOD solutions, as well as something wherein the downtime is involved. At the same time, they also have to look into the disruption in the technology enablement. That is the internal threats. Talking about the external threats, the threats are evolving. Talking about going ahead with something which is future generation, the BYODs, the cloud, the virtualization, the reporting, the analysis, the productivity. Since we are talking about the trends or we are talking about the threats are just a click away. How? I'll show it to you. Most of us might have come up with this pop-up screen. A single click would inject a spyware or a malware into the computer, stealing away all the critical data. Okay, this is a very common threat. Just you click it and you might not even know. Many of the people are aware. They look into the sites, whatever they download before they click it. But the employees are not. At the same time, what the community does, it is very easier to get into any network using something that is trending. What do you mean by that? A very common example, Modi wave. I've seen people clicking on each and every possible way, anywhere they find to get the information about this personality. The hackers use such trending information to get into the secure network. Okay? The youth, many of them are the youth icons. Followers, fans everywhere. Let it be the entertainment, let it be politics, let it be a business tycoon, a political leader, or a sportsperson. It is very easy, a single click, and then your data is gone. So how do we cater this? Talking about the IT leaders in enterprise, we want to achieve a lot more, right? The leaders of the IT networks want a security, they want productivity, they want a price, they have a price constraint, they have a flexibility, but at a certain point, they have to compromise. If you go for a good security with the productivity, the price goes higher. If you go for a pricing, if you think about the pricing, then you have to compromise with the security and the performance. So the directions are missing. What we have to look into is a solution which can give you, which can balance all this security, performance, price, flexibility, thinking about what is going to come in next 2 years, 3 years down the line. So there is a common mantra. How do we do it? How do you turn the disruptive into productivity? Number one, blend of next generation security and the performance. Choose a solution which is NG enabled, next generation enabled. At the same time, it will give the security and the highest level of productivity. Number two is the security that provides a proactive defense, which should be on its toes to give you the security right on the time. What we call as a zero-day vulnerability. At the same time, taking care of the BYOD, updating the releases regularly is one of the mantra here. And then the most important, not only this solution should give you a visibility on the physical network, but also should take care of your cloud, of your virtualization that is trending today. So keeping these aspects in point, I would like to talk about CyberRoom, which is India's first and the only marathon player in the global security market today. The threats are evolving, the applications are evolving, the signatures are evolving, the hackers are evolving, and so are we. We are evolving, we have come a long way. 13 years down the line, we had come up with a security solution in which we used to give the security on the software, a software-based security. But we realized that the market is growing. Along with that, we came up with the IS series appliances, the accelerator appliances, and today we are up with the next generation firewalls. Not only for the SMB market, but also for the mid-enterprise and the enterprise market. These products will give you the flexibility, will give you the security, will give you the productivity, as well as price competent. So talking about history of innovation, layer 8 identity security. Now this is something that we had come across almost 8 years back, and we are very proud that we have the competition who are following our footsteps for this. Nowadays, IP is something which can easily be altered. You know, they are freely available utilities which I can change my IP address, I can change my MAC address. So especially if you talk about a DHCP environment where IP keeps on changing. So we need a solution in which you can give the rights to the user in place of an IP address. Now this will give a visibility of let the user use any IP address, let him roam around any of the office premises, he'll be still carrying his properties. We also realized that most of these mid-enterprise and the enterprise security solutions, they have a web servers which are exposed to internet, which are published on the internet. Now, once you have any of the applications on the internet, it is very much vulnerable to the risk. So we came across a web application firewall that is on the appliance. Now, this web application firewall gives you a protection against all type of web attacks. You know, especially you talk about, you know, there are, just to give an example, National Geographic Channel has lots of good images, good, you know, wildlife photographies which are there on their website. There was an incident wherein one of the users, he opened up his own website and he provided a link on his website that was directly linking to the Nat Geo website. He used to get hit. At the same time, the Nat Geo website used to get the malicious traffic from his website. You know, so something like that wherein the layer 7 attacks are concerned. We're talking about the top OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities, let it be a SQL injection or cross-site scripting or maybe a cookie hijacking or session hijacking. On appliance web application firewall will give you the complete protection on the web servers. Again, to talk about giving 10 or 20 different features is not the exact motto that we have. We believe in giving the organization the complete visibility of who is doing what in your network. That is the reason we give an on-appliance reporting. Now this reporting has more than 1300 plus reports which will tell you who is doing what in your network. It will give the trends of your network, what the user is uploading on the internet, what sites is accessing, at the same time what are the risks involved in your network, so that the organizer or the administrator can have a clear visibility of what is happening in the network, who is uploading what files, who is downloading what data. So that is the entire dashboard which we provide. We believe that along with the enterprise, even the SMB market data is at risk. So we are the one to release the world's fastest network security appliance for the SOHO and SMB market, which has got gigabit of throughput. Now this networking is basically the backbone of the organization, and it has to be supported by a very powerful support and a robust support center. Cyberoom being the only hardware UTM vendor to have a ISO 20000 certification, which delivers the best of the support to all its customers. So here Cyberoom solves the puzzle of best fit, of performance, price, flexibility, and the security. Now we already had a look of how the mobile workforce is increasing. The mobiles the users carry. Nowadays everything is available on the mobile phone, let it be SAP, CRM, ERP or whatever. Within the premises and outside the premises, users carry the same mobile phone. In such mobile scenarios, we give a complete granularity over the mobile control. We have mobile device management, we have mobile application filtering, we have content filtering, which works in the premises as well as outside the premises. Some snapshots here. We have a team of Cyberoom Threat Research Labs who works and are committed to the proactive defense of all the vulnerabilities. Now the prime objective of this team is to search for vulnerabilities across the globe on various websites, on various applications, post the vulnerabilities to the global bodies, at the same time release the signature. Just a very interesting report I would like to show you. This is a site published by Microsoft Developer Networks, which highlights the partners or the vendors who releases the signature proactively within 48 hours of the release of the Microsoft Security Advisory. Cyberom being the only Indian company in the list on the left hand side to be a part of it. Okay, so generally we don't believe in jargons. You can also see the list of the OEMs on the right hand side of the screen, wherein the vendors release the patch into 96 hours. Facebook. You might be aware of the OAuth authentication that has recently happened on the Facebook. So Facebook has a community which do highlight the list of elite hackers, white hat hackers, who contributes towards the society. So Mr. Bhadresh Patel, part of a Cyberom research team, is on the list of the elite white hat hackers of the Facebook. Okay, just to give you a brief of the company, we have been acquired by the security giant Sophos. We today, being an Indian company, the presence is across 125 plus countries. Gartner has recognized us as a visionary player in the Gartner's Magic Quadrant. We are in the part of Gartner's Magic Quadrant from past 5 years. We have a industry leading R&D with more than 550 plus employees globally. Talking about the patent pending identity-based management, the user-based management that we were talking about, applying policies to the user, let it be antivirus policy, IPS policy, content filtering policies, or firewall policies, or maybe a WAF policies, we can apply for the user. At the same time, you can have the visibility of who is doing what in your network. We have been recognized as a network security innovator by SC Magazines, and the world's first network security vendor to have ISO 20000 certification for its global support center. We provide solutions for all the market today, let it be SMB, SOHO, mid-enterprise segment or the enterprise segment, physical security, virtual security, as well as a cloud security. We have been backed by a powerful global bodies which are affiliated us with the certifications. We have EL4 certification, we have checkmark certification for all the models we provide, that is antivirus, anti-spyware, it is intrusion prevention system, web application firewall. We are XLAC certified for firewall and high availability. At the same time, we have VPN certification for the VPN that we provide. As said earlier, we have been recognized as a visionary player from past 5 years. So if you have a look, we are very close to the leaders quadrant, and in this quadrant you will find the only Indian company to be a part of Gartner's Magic Quadrant is Cyberom. We have presence in almost all the verticals, that will be manufacturing, BFSI, telecom, education. As said, the presence is in almost 125 plus countries across all the segment. Okay, so some of the clientele are worldwide. So if you see, majority of the enterprise market or enterprise customers are there with Cyberom. Okay, let it be a retail services, the BPO services, hotel industry, manufacturing industry. Okay, sir, won't take much of your time. Any questions you can come up with?